are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast. I'm Dylan, able to take on Twitter. Talk to you in the latest in Auburn athletics news, as we're going to be grading the 2025 transfer portal class today, going over who is the premier additions, and then all the way down to who is the most disappointing of the bunch. So before we get into that, we are going to hit off the show with some updates. Of course, transfer portal wise, Auburn is now up to 26 total expectees into the portal. Of course, probably some guys that Auburn might try to fight and get back, but I imagine for the most part, a lot of these guys are gone. So I remember the last time we were here, I believe Kyan Lee was one of the last ones. Since then, Robert Woodyard has entered his name into the portal. Donovan Starr has entered his name. Xavier Chaplin has announced his intentions. Camden Etheridge, a contributing member to the scout team, and Kinsley Lador Faustin has also declared that he will be entering the portal as well. So again, that total is up to 26, which I'm not sure where that stands in terms of other colleges around college football, but I do see the portal not slowing down anytime soon unless the NCAA wants to do something about it. But regardless, there's some guys on there that I'm probably expecting to come back. It would shock me in the slightest to see those guys return. I do know some people were watching a live stream last night with Malcolm Simmons. Do you not think Malcolm Simmons is going to be one of those guys that will be returning to the team? In other news, there are a lot of rumors going around about Cam Coleman. Cam Coleman is, of course, the best receiver in Auburn football history, or will be eventually. And he is an expectee to return per some rumors that I've seen around the place, but I'm not going to get overexcited about it until his name hits a dotted line and he makes his own announcement about it. But those are some rumors going around. NFL draft declarations. Last time we were here, Kieran Crawford, Keldrick Falk, and Jeremiah Wright were the only ones to have announced it. Since then, I do believe Dylan Wade has announced his intentions, and Connor Liu has announced his intentions most recently as well. Of course, guys like Bobby Travis are going to be going. They're going to the Hula Bowl. I think there's a couple other Tigers around there that are going to be going off to play in those Senior Bowl-esque games. So that's kind of the football news in terms of guys who are leaving the team. Guys coming to the team. Brady Marchese, is 4-star wide receiver, adds his name to Auburn's recruiting class for class 2026. Signing with Auburn after he got his NLI released from Michigan. Of course, after that whole debacle, which I will not be going into what's going on with Michigan. I will say it's a good hire for them to get Kyle Whittingham. That's probably a great replacement hire to save some kind of face for all the stuff. If you've not heard of what's going on in Michigan, I implore you to go watch a video about what's going on over there because I don't think I'm – I hope I'm informed about most of it, but I can't get into it on here. But yeah, Brady Marchese, again, 4-star wide receiver. He helps Auburn boost their rating up to the 29th in the class. Of course, there are some signees Auburn can still pick up later on, especially in January. But again, getting a 4-star wide receiver, a 6'1" guy, physical guy, and very quick. I think he runs like a 4.4 40. So great pickup. After Auburn lost to Jace Matthews, but you managed to get Deshaun Spencer. Really, we're looking for another X factor level receiver to kind of add into this class. But again, this is the first recruiting class that head coach Alex Golich is bringing in. So I don't want to say it's not. What's the word I want to use for that? It's a class that he has not gotten a full cycle to recruit. Even then, only a few of them really were USF guys. But that's a big pickup regardless. A guy that Michigan was very excited for. They had staffers saying this guy was an alpha. This guy was a dog, and we're very excited to see him. Of course, Auburn should have had their eyes on him a lot sooner because he is from Georgia. So the guy that should have been on the radar regardless. But a massive, massive pickup for Auburn going forward. So that's pretty much all the news that we've missed. Of course, didn't have a show on Thursday. Thursday was Christmas. I hope everyone enjoyed their Christmas season. Got a chance to enjoy time with family and time to get made fun of for Auburn football's season. So all the Christmas traditions were felt this this season. So as the title says, we're going to be grading the 2025 transfer portal class. Of course, a class Auburn and all of us, I can't deny, we're very excited for and thought this class was good enough to get Auburn over the hump. Clearly not able to do that. We're going to go in alphabetical order. That way, I first started off with A's, B's, C's, D's. I will say my grading scale, I do go into the F category. I think if you've earned an F, you got an F. As someone who is a teacher, I fully believe in that. If you turn in F work, you're getting an F for your grade. There are some guys on here who I flat out could not grade because they did not perform enough for me to really put them aside on the chart. So you'll see some of those all around the place. But starting off, I think with the probably the most popular transfer on the list is Jackson Arnold. I'm giving Jackson Arnold an F. A guy who Auburn basically dropped the bank for. This was a guy who Hugh Freeze said could run his offense fully. He was a guy who wanted to run Hugh Freeze's offense. And again, coaching aside, Jackson Arnold is just a very disappointing quarterback. The sacks speak for themselves. Once the metaphorical dam broke about him finally throwing an interception, it felt like it was bound to happen a lot more. I always thought he was playing it too safe, but once he got that, he never improved. There was never a progression for Jackson Arnold throughout the year. So I think he has firmly earned an F. I saw some people grading around and gave him a D. Really, outside of that Baylor game and the non-con games he got in for, there really was no high points this season, and especially as a passer. As a passer, there was no high points. So I fully believe he has earned the F category. Of course, he also gets it for entering the portal, so he will not be on Auburn. He was a one-year rental. Just a very, very disappointing season. So Jackson Arnold gets an F, the first F of the video. There are a few more. I don't want to say there's a couple more. I don't want to make it sound like there's a lot of duds in this class. The first one getting a non-applicable is James Ash, a second-team SWAC defensive lineman from Florida A&M, a guy who was brought in for depth, but really didn't play all that much. Auburn's defensive line was very stacked, so very hard to get in there. He saw some playing time, but not enough for me to really, amplify what his grade would be. If anything, it would be a D or a C, strictly just because he didn't play all that much, but he served his role, man. He was a guy who was recruited here to add guys on the roster. So I'm not gonna give him a bad grade for that. So just non-applicable for James Ash, and then we're gonna get all of the spectrums here. My one and only A on this entire list is Xavier Atkins. Of course, he's an All-American linebacker, should have been up for the linebacker awards. Every Defensive Player of the Year award he should have been up for. SEC first teamer, a guy who has been underrated by the national media, but Auburn and the SEC know that this dude is absolutely ridiculous. Has already announced his intentions to return for next year, and I expect him to get even better and better. He's absolutely ridiculous. He is going to be an all-timer for Auburn. The season he had last year was enough to put him close to the Mount Rushmore of Auburn linebackers all time. And if he has another season like that, dude, we are going to be talking about retiring a jersey again and number 17. Dude's an absolute animal. And absolutely, I first did an A+, which I also warrants that as well, but I couldn't stop putting plus signs on it. So I just kept it simple with an A. But if it's an A, it's 100. This was an absolute hit. This was a guy who this team needed. Auburn linebacker was a question mark going into this year, a big question mark. And Auburn had some injuries. Robert Woodyard stepped up, which was a big time for him. I can't wait to see where he goes with the remainder of his college career. DeMarcus Riddick gets an injury. Some other guys don't really pan out. And Xavier Atkins just emerges from, I don't say the ashes, but it felt that for, just absolute phenomenal season, and just overall just an absolute beast of a linebacker. So Xavier Atkins gets an A. Another non-applicable, Tanner Bailey, which this is a funny one because I'm pretty sure there were not only just none of the college elite, but there were several shows that talked about Tanner Bailey and his what he could bring to the team. And I'm sure a lot of people probably see Tanner Bailey. And if you're not in tune with what was going on last January during the transfer portal cycle or December, whenever it was last year, you probably said who? Tanner Bailey was a South Carolina quarterback that, if not mistaken, retired and came back, and Auburn was his dream school, so he transferred to Auburn, and I don't know if he ever practiced with the team. So I'm going to give that a non-applicable because he wasn't on the roster when the season started. So don't know what happened to Tanner Bailey. I did not do my due diligence of research for Tanner Bailey, but I just know that he wasn't around for the season. He was a guy we talked about being potential, a guy to kind of sit in front of Deuce Knight just to give Deuce his redshirt year. Ashton Daniels came in, and I truly cannot tell you what happened to Tanner Bailey at Auburn, but non-applicable for that one. So moving on, got an offensive lineman to talk about. Got a couple of those to talk about. Xavier Chaplin getting a D. This was another one I contemplated with an F, but there were some instances of good from Xavier Chaplin. Led the SEC, I think, in false starts. Said that loud stadiums made it hard for him to hear, so he would jump a lot. That's absolutely ridiculous. Xavier Chaplin firmly submits himself as a D. Category transfer edition. This was honestly probably should argue for the F. It was a guy who I could firmly say I was the most excited for. I thought he was going to be the biggest addition for the stretch portal class. Auburn finally submits himself with a pro caliber left tackle, and he doesn't perform that well. He just lets down everyone that was watching him. And again, it was when there was a whistle before the snap, I just knew what number they were going to call out. It was always going to be number 65, jumping off sides. So Xavier Chaplin right now gets a D. If I might, if in the future, if I look back at this class and just want to remit in anger, it'll be an F. But I'm going to give Xavier Chaplin a D in terms of his transfer portal grade. He's now in the portal as well. He's looking for a chance to get back to where he was preseason, where he was a all SEC caliber tackle. He was an all American caliber tackle. He was a first round in the NFL draft caliber tackle. And he was just didn't play like it. All right. Moving on. Ashton Daniels getting a B. Definitely could have been an argument for the A category, stepping in and balling out in the Vanderbilt game, doing everything he could versus Alabama. Ashton Daniels truly is one of the MVPs of the season, strictly just for stepping up and giving Auburn a quarterback and making the discussion of why in the world was there never a quarterback battle going on in the fall whenever Ashton Daniels was going to play, or the summer, whenever there was. Ashton Daniels definitely proved that he probably should have been in the starting quarterback conversation from the second he signed the dotted line. It's something we even talked about on the show. He was the first transfer portal addition Auburn made at the quarterback position. He signed with Auburn before Arnold did. But I thought about giving him an A, but I mean there were some moments where he didn't really look the part, and the Kentucky game kind of stands out. But again, he didn't play bad in that game. I can't say Auburn did not lose to Kentucky because of Ashton Daniels. That was firmly in the hands of the former head coach. But Ashton Daniels, baller. Wish him best of luck. Someone's going to get an absolute dude at quarterback when he transfers there. I think he's going to get one last chance to really start for a place in somebody's last year of eligibility. I'm glad that Auburn was able to save that so he could go off and have another year to kind of ball out. Would have loved to keep him on the roster just for having a very good caliber backup. Very great caliber backup. He's a very good starting quarterback. But yeah, absolute dude in and of himself. Keeping it with the B's, Horatio Fields going to get a B. Dealt with an injury. Going to also enter his name in the portal as well, which I hate. Horatio Fields was always one of my picks for one of the top wide receiver additions Auburn brought in. For sure hands, a dude who caught everything around him, and Auburn was basically using him how I said he should be used. And before the injury, he was one of Auburn's most reliable targets. So I can't go anything less than a B. He was out early in the season, but again, didn't really give me anything to make it lower than that. So Horatio Fields getting a B. Continuing on, going back to the C's for a little bit. Connor Gibbs, the kicker, getting himself a C. Did not play horribly. He was Auburn's kickoff specialist for majority of the season. As a kicker, he only missed, I think, one field goal. So going to give him a C there. Not too much to really brag about, but he was a very good kickoff specialist. I can give him that, but just wasn't a reliable enough guy kicking to whenever McPherson was struggling or just wasn't feeling it. He just wasn't someone you could really trust to go in there and just make every single kick. So going to give him a C, strictly just because he was very good at getting touchbacks. So not a bad pick up there for kicker. Jay Hardy also getting a C. Contemplated where exactly Jay Hardy should be. Again, a guy who wasn't Auburn before transferring around. Did not really do too much to really cement anything higher than a C, but did not perform bad enough to get anything less. Stepped in a couple of times and had some decent moments. So let me give Jay Hardy a C. Not really too much on that one. Going back to the F's, though. Preston Howard, F. If there is someone who got more scrutiny this season than Jackson Arnold did, it was Preston Howard. Preston Howard was an unreliable tight end, did not make any catches in crunch time that were necessary, drops, missed blocking assignments. I mean, I set Auburn back a couple of years in the tight end position. Again, Auburn needed a guy who could replace the production that Rivaldo Fairweather was able to bring in at times. This was not it. This was just not it. Brandon Frazier stepped up but dealt with injury, so Preston Howard got put in the front seat for the majority of the season, and there was never a look towards the freshman. Preston Howard was just not very good, and he was not very good. He, of course, is also entering the portal. If I'm not mistaken, or I don't think he's entering the portal, actually. Hold on, I have not put his name on. He has not entered the portal yet. I would expect him to, just strictly. I mean, Xavier Chaplin, I think, is, I don't know if it's because of O-line coach or just because the backlash he kept getting from the fans. But if there was ever a player I would expect to do that as well, it'd be Preston Howard, just to get a fresh place to kind of. Yeah, he's a talented tight end. That's my thing. It's just that he just couldn't catch, and it was annoying at times where it was catches where you sit there and you're like, I could have made that. So. Hasn't entered his name in the portal. I almost made a flub there, but someone I would expect to when it's all said and done. So moving on with Hudson Cox, he gets a D, which is ironic. But Hudson he was just okay, and there was a couple of games where down in the stretch where Auburn really needed to pin a defense back or pin an offense back. It just went off the side of his foot. Hudson has a lot of confidence and was not consistent at getting punts on the other side of the field. So I'm going to give him a D for this one. At this point of the year, Auburn has not had a good stretch of punters. That is another thing. So hopefully picking that up in the future. But just not a very good stretch of punters so far for Auburn football. Up next on non-applicable, Jacoby Matthews, a transfer out of, I believe, Texas A&M. Did not see any playing time this year. It was a very, very, I think he was Auburn's latest addition to the transportal class, and I think he got picked up like a few days before fall camp started. Did not see any playing time this season, and I can't really grade you off that. Depth piece, that's all I can really say, but non-applicable because I never saw you. So back to the offensive lineman, and again, probably a shocking one here. I'm giving Mason Murphy a C. Now, again, if Mason Murphy had stayed the right tackle for the entirety of the season, he probably would have been right down there with Xavier Chaplin, and so he stepped up at center when Connor Liu got knocked out for the year, and Kale Ellis needed kind of a shift. I don't know if y'all can hear that train in the background. When Kale Ellis, was playing like a freshman. And again, not going to doubt Kale Ellis's ability. Dude was an absolute dog. Whenever he was on it, he was on it. Mason Murphy offered a reliable center to go in and step in behind, what was Auburn was missing from Connor Liu, and he played he was very good at that. I never really heard his name again from the refs whenever they were calling penalties for holding or false starts. So can't be too mad about that. So he's going to get a C. Probably would have liked to see a lot more of him at center. But regardless, I think he kind of picked up from the slack that he had starting off the year at right tackle. Chris Murray up next with the B for Chris Murray. Again, this was a transfer out of a G6 school. Was always going to be a guy behind Kieran Crawford, but even then, whenever he got on the field, he made things happen. Very impressed with what Chris Murray was able to do with his limited playing time that he got. Again, Kieran Crawford had a phenomenal year. That's why he's going to the NFL draft. Again, another guy who also was he would have been behind Keldrick as well on the D-line. But I think he truly made a name for himself and wish him best of luck. He might be going to the NFL draft. If I'm not mistaken. I had to look at that. I don't know how many years of eligibility I never even try to question years of eligibility anymore, but Chris Murray was a very solid piece. If he has another year of eligibility, would love to see him play for Auburn again, but gets a B for his first year on the Plains at least. All right, moving on to the backfield of the secondary, Rayshawn Pleasant, giving him a B as well. Now, Rayshawn Pleasant opened up a lot of eyes in week 1 when we turned that kickoff return for a touchdown against Baylor. And had a pick 6 against, I believe, Arkansas, which was the big time. Now, I've seen places give Rayshawn Pleasant an A. I couldn't do it strictly because there was a lot of moments where I was like, all right, maybe not put him back there at corner. So as a nickel, I think he was perfectly fine. But when it came to playing outside corner, I don't think he's made for outside corner. So it gets a B for what he was able to do as a return specialist and as a nickel. So outside corner, just not his thing, and that's okay. Everyone's got their niche of a position. Just couldn't get it done there. Moving on to Darrell Robinson, giving Darrell Robinson a C again. I don't know how many injuries every one of these guys had, but I'm not going to dock players for injuries. But Darrell Robinson, before his injury, he wasn't really seeing the field all too much, but he had a highlight play, so I'm gonna give him a C. Just would like to see a lot more of him, at least getting down the stretch. But again, injuries suck. Probably could have been a nice 1-2 punch with him and Jeremiah Cobb. Probably would have saved Jeremiah a lot of breaths and snaps as well. Would have probably helped him get to 1,000 for that regard as well. Having to rely a little too much on the freshman. So Darrell Robinson getting a C right now. Tay Seymour getting a non-applicable as well. Again, a guy who I was very excited about Auburn picking up, a starting caliber safety from Georgia Tech, who was a big contributor for them on special teams as well. Didn't see the field at all for Auburn either. And again, a guy who just didn't pan out. So I can't grade him. I'm not going to give him a grade just because I didn't get to see him play. But yeah, gets a non-applicable for that one. But going to his roommate at Georgia Tech, Eric Singleton, I'm giving Eric Singleton Jr. a B. Definitely was not the game-breaking wide receiver this season that I think Auburn was expecting to have. But Auburn was definitely wide receiver by committee, with definitely Cam Coleman being the standout piece. But as a reliable target and as a guy who could make things happen whenever he got the ball in open space, Eric Singleton submitted himself there. I think there was a lot of games where he just kind of wasn't utilized, and that probably hurt his grade a little bit, but I think a B is perfectly fine for him right now. Definitely opportunities if he comes for another year to kind of up that a lot. Again, if Cam Coleman goes back to Auburn, it'd be a great 1-2 wide receiver punch again. and just kind of see how this wide receiver room pans out with Cody Burns now running the things for that position. So moving on to the last three, Rayon Strader getting a D on the season. Didn't really get to see a lot of them. Again, a guy who was up for the Thorpe Award, was an first team All MAC that last season, came to Auburn, and was expecting him to get a lot more playing time than he did. Thought he could have been a nice guy to put behind Jay Crawford or Kyan Lee. Now both those guys are in the portal. But don't know if the game just never sped up for him, or if he never sped up for the game of the SEC. But again, I just don't think he did enough to really impress. I mean, he was a highly touted transfer. I think he was like one of the top corners in the class, if not the top corner in that class. But I'm giving him a D, strictly just because I didn't see enough of him to really warrant anything higher than that. So moving on. Last high grade of the video, Dallas Walker the fourth, getting himself a B. Dude who played nose tackles. So again, the nose tackles are very difficult to make their names known. Again, tackles are hard to come by when you're a nose tackle. He got 13 of them. He also forced a fumble, getting himself a B. I think he kind of stepped up. He's one of the few transferred interior D linemen, if not the only one, that really kind of stepped up and was out there making things happen whenever he got on the field. So Dallas Walker getting himself a B. And then lastly, Caleb Wheatland gets an F. So Caleb Wheatland was a guy who got a lot of tackles in Maryland. He was a very big contributor to Maryland's defense over the past few seasons. Transferred to Auburn. I thought he only had a year of eligibility left, but apparently he does not. He's transferring out. Did not see the field, if I'm not mistaken, or did not see the field for any of the big games. I believe the first time I heard his name get called was against Mercer. Even Auburn was dealing with linebacker injuries. Again, didn't see his name or number get called at all. Highly touted just for being a good tackler at Maryland, and came to Auburn, didn't really make a noise for himself. So overall, the class, I would say for the most part, the class was a success. I mean, there were some guys who didn't pan out. And again, some of those guys are on the higher end in terms of NIL valuations, which might say something there. But overall, I mean, it was a pretty decent class. The highest of highs were amazing. The lowest of lows were disappointing. So overall, I mean, I give the class probably earns a C. I mean, the majority of the players were in the B category. Or C category. So, I mean, they probably submit themselves as a C. Again, a transfer class, Auburn probably spent a lot of money on NIL money. So, again, best player of the class, Xavier Atkins. Most disappointing player of the class, probably it's definitely Jackson Arnold. Again, Auburn has an opportunity on January 2nd, which is only 5 days away, to really kind of pick up some steam on the portal end. Try to get any guys they want back to return. Try to get any guys that don't want to leave to stay. And again, this is going to be a very, very, very hectic transfer portal cycle, strictly just coming from the fact that the head coaching carousel was just as crazy. So it's going to be absolutely ridiculous going forward. So what do you think about what are your grades for the transfer portal class? Who are your top guys? Who are the lowest of the low end of the totem pole on the transfer portal class? We're going to go to your comments real quick, and then I'm going to go talk about basketball after a quick little break. So stay tuned after that. All right, Teresa War Eagle, and also Meep Meep as well. And we got Terry Miller. We got no team. We do have some players on the team, but of course they're just going to wait around and kind of see who's leaving and who's not. After the portal cycle ends, you'll see the team kind of. I guess if you go by the website, there's no team listed, but when they update the website after that. So, again, the transfer portal is going to be crazy. January 2nd is when it starts off, and that's going to be a 10-day cycle, if I'm not mistaken. And, again, it's going to be absolutely hectic and crazy and insane and busy. It'll be a busy time. So, cut up to the comments. We're going to a quick little break. Outside this break, we'll talk about some Auburn basketball and what to expect from them with one game left of 2025. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Are you tired of having to rummage through just clothes after clothes after clothes looking for something to wear? Are you tired of your friends making fun of you for your terrible fashion sense? Well, do we have the shirt for you? Go to thewarreport.com, get your laptop out and do it right now. Go to the shop and get your very own Feelin' Loopy t-shirt as well as your college loop hat, and you can get both of them for only $25 each. Plus shipping and handling, of course. But with that, now back to your regular scheduled program.
You can get that merch on thewarreport.com. Go to the shop and get your very own college merch today. Of course, that's all I want for the channel. The best way to support the channel is, of course, by liking the video, commenting on the video, let me know who your top transfer additions from this past class was. And, of course, by subscribing to the YouTube channel, help us get to our next big milestone of 2,000 subscribers. Some of my content goals for 2026. So, hoping to reach that milestone as well. So, as we move on and try to round out the show, Auburn getting ready for their last game of the non-con schedule, their last game of 2025, and their last opportunity to add another win on the plate before SEC conference play starts as they take on Queens University, the Royals of, I don't know where they're from, I guess New York from Queens, but Auburn is a big favorite in this one, 24-point favorite in this one, 97.5% chance to win it per ESPN FPI. Auburn has 8-4 record, 5-0 at home. So I'm not going to predict a loss at all from this game. But there are some things I want to see from Auburn in this one. I mean, you got to find rebounding. Got to find it. SEC conference play starts. Start off with Georgia, who I think Georgia kind of fraudulently got their way into the top 25. I understand they have an 11-1 record, but again, they have not really played any ranked teams all year. So, again, with that game being in Athens, though, it's going to be a very tough place to play, a very hostile environment. A lot of people, a lot of grown adults barking at people. But regardless, I mean, this is a game that Auburn, has to win moving forward. Can't get caught looking ahead. Again, I think the first game is on the 3rd against Georgia. And again, things I just need to see. Just rebounding, consistency shooting. Todd Pettiford, I think, had an ankle injury, but I don't think it's bothering him. Which is fine. I'm not even opposed to Auburn sending him out for this game and just getting ready for SEC play with them. Again, Keyshawn Hall has been phenomenal. Kevin Overton just had a 22-point game. A lot of high points for this team this year, but there's a lot of low points already with those 4 losses. Again, Auburn has gotten blown out in, I think, 2 out of the 4 losses or 3 out of the 4 losses. So, got to find ways to make up for that. Again, height is a big issue for Auburn, especially with Emeka Okprom being out for the year due to an undisclosed illness. So how Auburn combat that, probably going to go more small ball with it. Keyshawn, I don't want to say Keyshawn Hall. But you're going to have to find ways to get rebounds this year, especially because, dude, it's going to be tough. The SEC is going to be as crazy as always, as it usually always is. But again, I think the SEC is, I don't want to say it's a down year for the SEC, but it kind of feels like it. I feel the Big Ten's kind of taken over the basketball realm this year. But regardless, I mean, got guys like Keyshawn Murphy who are going to be it's going to be rolling as your 5 for the remainder of the year. Just got to find a guy behind him who can really help out. Going to have to find some length some way. Again, you have freshmen that are balling out. I think Sebastian Williams-Adams is really starting to find his groove. Just got to be consistent about it. Elijah Freeman, same thing with him. If Auburn can just find reliable scoring, again, if you outscore opponents, you're going to win. So, but again, Auburn has prided themselves on defense over the past few seasons. So, got to find ways to kind of get around the clear weaknesses of the team that we've seen thus far this season. So, we'll talk more about that on the next edition. We'll be previewing Auburn versus Georgia and kind of getting ready for that. If not, probably for the Thursday show, we'll be going over that. But I do want to go ahead and say Merry Christmas to everybody if I did not already, because I was not live or had an episode that day because I was spending time with my family. So I hope everyone enjoyed their Christmas. Again, let me know what you got. Comments below. I'm getting a Derek Brown jersey. The Panthers get a Derek Brown jersey. Super stoked for them. They lost today, but they're 1 win away from getting the playoffs, which I can't say I've been excited for Carolina Panthers season in quite some time. So super stoked to see the Panthers have an opportunity to make the playoffs as long as we win next week. So that being said, we're going to go and get out of here. 35-minute show. I'm Dylan Larck. Watching on Twitter, find me on Instagram as well. Dylan Larck, D-Y-L-N L-R-C-K. Of course, don't forget to follow me right in the Call of Duty podcast. Just like, comment, and subscribe. Leave your picks for who is your top portal edition from this last year's cycle and who is the worst edition Auburn made in this cycle. So let me know in the comments below. And, of course, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe as well. Follow us on all social media platforms, Twitter, check out Facebook, Instagram. The words are the College Loop. Follow us on Spotify as well. I'm going to scrap about that. Make sure if you are unable to watch, you can always listen to an episode as well. So we'll be back on Tuesday, catching everybody up on what's going around Auburn, Alabama in the athletic realm. So stay tuned for that. And, of course, with all that being said, well, thanks for tuning in to the College Podcast. And then with all that being said, and as always, where's my thing? There it is. Okay, there we go. War